Welcome to the Inspiration Contagion podcast, where we spread inspiration one story at a time. I am your host, Holly Jean Jackson. Each episode spotlights and interviews one transformational leader, their stories, and their advice for how you too can lead yourself and others through inspiration. If you are a visionary seeking to uplevel your leadership skills, then this is the podcast for you. I invite you today to spread inspiration like a contagion. Welcome to the Inspiration Contagion movement. Welcome to episode 37 of the Inspiration Contagion podcast. This week's episode is also being recorded for YouTube, so if you would prefer to watch instead, please check out the show notes for that link. With that, we're going to welcome this week's guest. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Groucho Marx, Jay Lifson, Executive Director for the Lafayette Chamber of Commerce. He was raised in Beverly Hills, not that part of Beverly Hills, he says. Jay had an odd adolescence, one part athlete, one part hippie, and one part mischievous. During his adult years, he was a fry cook, restaurant owner, husband, father, grandfather, and a terrible guitarist. With that, welcome, Jay.
Well, good morning. How are you, Holly?
I am great. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you.
Jay is such an amazing part of the Lafayette Chamber community. So it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. And with that, why don't you just start by telling the audience a little bit more about yourself?
Okay. Well, I think you summed it up there pretty quickly. I guess 65 years. There's a little bit in the middle of all that, but no, I came to Lafayette in 1983 when I bought a restaurant with a couple of partners, and we ran that for about 5 years, and that was enough for the two of them to say, "I want out of this business." So we sold it, and I stayed in the business, and luckily, I wound up staying here in Lafayette for quite some time. So I worked at, I was the general manager and training director at the Hungry Hunter restaurant in Lafayette, which was basically over on the east side for many, many years. People might remember that as Mountain Jack's. And then I went to work for a number of years as the food and beverage director at the Lafayette Park Hotel. And just when I was going to transition out of the restaurant business and into HR, I wound up getting a call from the general manager of the hotel, and he said, "Hey, you need to talk to me before you do anything." And I wound up getting a chance to continue to work in Lafayette. So, 35 years later, I'm still here. It's sort of cool. I love the community. The community has been great to me, and so it's always a pleasure in giving back to it.
Well, and the community certainly loves Jay. You can't mention Jay's name without people, one, knowing him, and two, having something really nice to say about him. And that means a lot. So with that, Jay, I'd love to hear from you on what makes you such an inspirational leader, or what is your secret sauce?
Secret sauce would that takes you back to the fry cook days. That's you know that's the I started my career at Bob's Big Boy. I was a fry cook, became a manager at the age of 18, and that's how I got into that business. Secret sauce. The secret sauce for me is really simple. It's keep it simple. I have always approached everything that I do, with the same sort of core values. You have to sort of figure out who you are first before you can start helping others. I think leadership and management is all about basically grooming them to be the next leaders. So I've always had sort of an open door policy. I'm the kind of person who wants to laugh first and scorn second. Catching employees doing things right instead of wrong. I mean, those are all sort of the foundation of just being approachable. And when you surround yourself with good people or people that are smarter than you, that's when the secret sauce really starts working, because then you're both learning something. So it's been a very open approach. Maybe I straddle the line between leadership or management and family and friends a little bit too close. I've always considered my staff my family, and I spend more time with them anyway. But that's sort of the approach I've taken. So I'm I enjoy people, and I enjoy working hard, and achieving goals. But more importantly, I love it when the people around me are achieving their goals.
Yeah, and I think also an extra part of your secret sauce is just that you have this energy about you and this sense of how happy you are. Like I have never seen you not happy, and I'm sure that that just flows through your staff and motivates them and makes you approachable and makes it so much more fun to work with you.
Stick around; it's early in the day. Anything can happen.
That is true. We're all human, right?
Yeah.
So with that, what does inspiration mean to you?
Well, it's the ability to get people to well, first of all, you have to be inspired yourself, and whether it's lifelong learning, whether it's being a little bit adventurous, or as you mentioned in the intro, a little bit mischievous. I mean, all those, you have to take some risks. Entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs have been defined to me two ways. One is that they are people that will take a project, take a business, take an idea, and really put themselves out on the line. Really sort of going at it with a lot more at risk than other people will. The other definition is entrepreneurs are just people that have figured out by now that they just can't work for anybody else, so they go to work for themselves.
So true. Or maybe it's a bit of both, but yeah, I love that you are inspiring your staff by staying inspired yourself and making sure that you're helping them achieve their own goals.
Well, so yeah, I mean, there's different styles and approaches that you can take. Whether it's I've never been I've never been a manager that had the style of being the director and telling people what to do. It's I lean more towards letting people realize their own limitations, and being self-directed, because when you're self-directed, you get to make lots of mistakes, and that's, after all, how we learn how to get a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about entrepreneurship is it's kind of this safe container for, or maybe not safe, but it's a container for learning about how to navigate failure. Because let's be real, if you're going to run a business or be an entrepreneur, you're going to have a lot of failures along that route to figuring it out.
Yeah, yeah, and we better buckle up and get used to them this next year. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But exciting at the same time.
Yeah.
So, how do you define success and for yourself, and how did you arrive at this definition?
I don't know if I've ever asked myself that question. You know, when after the 5 years that we owned this restaurant, the Rocking Horse here in Lafayette, I kidded with my partners. I said, I had this dream to own my own restaurant, and I should have actually maybe crystallized that a little better, and maybe I should have shot for. I dreamed about owning my own successful restaurant. So that was I cut myself a little short there. Success is and again, success can be in many different parts of your life. So there's different milestones and different hurdles that you have to overcome. But I agree. You do come to that point where you feel, hey, this is where I was planning on going, and I've been there. So I know that when I left, whenever I've left a job that I had in the past, I never left with regrets. I always felt like I had done everything I could to the best of my ability. So that was my success, was finishing the job. Growing up, I was probably voted, least likely to amount to anything. So, it's, uh, but part of it is there are certain people like me that have figured out in life. I was listening to a broadcast on ESPN or something. This is many years ago, and they were asking one of the New England Patriots. He was like a eight-time Pro Bowler and won many championships. And what drives you? What keeps you going? Why are you even at this age? Why? And he goes, fear. Fear of letting my team down, fear of letting my fans down, fear of letting my coaches down. And I, I had that aha moment. Oh my God, that's me. I'm doing this all out of fear. So I had to work for the next like 15 years on sort of changing that internal dialogue that I had with myself. That I wasn't just doing it out of fear. I was doing it because it was good work and and it made me happy too. So I think that's when I realized that I had sort of reached that point in my life.
Yeah, it sounds like for you, success was not living from a place of fear, giving it 100%, finishing the job, and then celebrating that milestone.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great. So, we all know that on the way to figuring out success, there are a lot of obstacles and challenges. So, what were some of the biggest obstacles and challenges that you faced?
Uh, as a child, my height. In fact, there was a well, you have to get through certain phases of your life. So I was pretty tenacious and I was a pretty good athlete. And so I was because I was, back in elementary school, like 4 foot 10 or 11 or what, I would people would challenge me all the time. So the first thing I had to do was beat up a few of them until they realized that okay, they don't have to mess with me anymore. But once you get used to with these things, I am short. I'm like 5'6", but I never know it, and that was a big deal, being short. Uh, other issues were I was an average student growing up, and it wasn't for a lack of intellect. It was for a lack of I didn't give a crap about school. I was not that was not what I was focused on. I was much more focused on having a good time, becoming a very young entrepreneur, and sort of following the things that I loved, which was music and backpacking, and so I guess I sort of squandered or enjoyed those years in between figuring out if I was ever going to grow up or not. But definitely it still molds who you are. So
And what have been some of the bigger challenges professionally over the years?
yeah. I think it's sort of interesting. I think this is a really challenging time. So, this conversation will be dated. We're in the midst of a pandemic. We're in the midst of politically the worst pile of you know what going on. We have absolutely no leadership or very little leadership guiding us through this really dark time. So with COVID, so for example, the chamber, we're all about bringing people together, face to face, having networking and gatherings and ribbon cuttings and big festivals. This weekend would have been our 25th Art and Wine Festival. Get about 100,000 people that come to town every year, and sort of weird not being outside right now marking the street or putting up barricades or whatever. But this has been a real challenging year. My staff and I have never been busier, and it has to do basically we had to sort of change the whole paradigm, and we shifted to basically going from supporting businesses and promoting them to basically giving them resources to hopefully survive. So this has been a huge challenge. But you know what? most of us rise to that occasion. We figure out ways in which we can help. And as long as we continue to, sort of hit our mission, which is, to support the business community here and the residents, I think we're doing okay. So we went from mixers and concerts in the plaza over the summer to helping people get information about all the different loans that the government was offering as the pandemic began. And then as things started to open up, it was basically cheerleading for them and advocating for the businesses to get open when it was safe to do so. So we still find ourselves. I think we're like on the 20-yard line now. We're not. This is, in spite of what some politicians tell us, we are far from being done with the virus. We're in our economic woes. This is going to be a real challenging time. So yeah, this is one great example of how you have to readjust.
Yeah, and the chamber in Lafayette has done a really good job. I think you guys must have been really financially smart to be prepared for this, because I know that not having those events is affecting your fundraising for the
Yeah.
chamber as well. But what I have to say is that you guys have done an amazing job compared to some of the other resources and possibly other chambers out there to support the community. And I'm certain that more of our businesses will survive this because of the support you guys
I think there's another reason why more of our businesses will survive too, and it's not necessarily have anything to do with the chamber. Lafayette is a very affluent community, and people that here have their routines, their habits, they have disposable income. For many people here, it hasn't changed that much. What's changed is where they can go spend the money. So my feeling is that we're at this really critical time right now. Lafayette, the downtown of Lafayette, has really sort of emerged as a really fun, walkable, and pleasant downtown, based on the fantastic restaurants we have in this town. And right now they're open outdoors, and they're open for to go. When we get to the next level, which might be this next week, the restaurants will then be allowed to open up 25% of their dining room. Well, I got to tell you, as a former restaurateur, 25% seating is never going to take you back to where you were. So it takes all the way until the fourth level when they can go to 50%, and it will never go to 100% until there's a vaccine, it's being administered. I mean, there's really no issues anymore. That's a long time to wait to get your business back. And without restaurants as the anchors in our downtown, I really fear for some of the other businesses that rely on that foot traffic that comes and goes. So this period of time this really is the tipping point for many communities. But in Lafayette, we're not gonna have as much change during the recession. We really kept the slide in sales tax pretty much to single digits during that time when some cities around us were going 20 to 30% down. Well, sales tax for Lafayette in the last quarter was down 25%. I don't even want to tell you what some of the other cities are at. It's really frightening. But when we recover, we won't recover as quickly either, because there won't be as much of a margin to grow back to. So I think Lafayette will be okay. I think most businesses will be okay, but we're losing businesses every week.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
tough.
that is the
Yeah,
sad reality, and I'm sure that, like you said, it's worse in other cities. So we're
yeah.
fortunate to be in this area and have such great people that live here. So with that, so we can bring this back up, what is a story, a story of inspiration that you're known for?
Ay, ay, ay. Are we going to stop the tape and start over again? Let's see. Inspiration that I'm known for. Well, in Lafayette, I think most people have known me, either as a restaurateur or the face of the chamber. And the chamber puts on this art and wine festival every year. And we started out on Golden Gate Way. We had, a couple of dozen booths. We had a little petting zoo, and I think we had pony rides or something like that. And we grew it very quickly over the years. And it's really become quite an event, perhaps the largest in Contra Costa County. And 4 stages with lots of entertainment, and over 450 booths with art, a lot of good art and crafts, and local art as well. And so my job to work with our committee is to make it just a little bit better every year. So we always try and throw something out, something new, something that we haven't done before. Was it Ken Blanchard, who's written many business books? He had a book on, I think it was called Wow or something like that, word of mouth marketing. And what he said was, you have to you have to first decide who you're going to be, and then be the best at it. So in business, it's either you're going to be the least expensive place to go to buy something, or you're going to be the best at whatever it is, or you're going to be selling or doing something that's unique that no one else does. And once you figured out which one that is, and it may be a little bit of all three, the next thing is the way that you keep people coming back is you give them 1% more each time. Just give them just a little bit more than what they expected. So last year we had this great marching band that came. They were just fantastic, and marched a couple times through the event, and did a couple of concerts when they'd stop, and people just loved it. We also did a young what do we call it? It was basically getting young people to come and be entrepreneurs. So we set up a whole area last year where kids that made things came and sold them, and great experience for them, which included some classes that we did on marketing and how to set up a booth and so on. So that was really fun for us last year, sort of getting into that world. So giving them just a little bit more. So I guess in a way, this art and wine thing is probably what inspires people. I don't know.
Well, and I think that also having that edge, that 1% of improvement and
Yeah.
continuous growth each year. I love having the entrepreneurship classes and space for kids, because really we don't infuse enough of that into the education system. And so having a different path, just like you said, when you were younger, you were more focused on being an entrepreneur, so you weren't as invested in some of the classes. It would be really neat if we had more of that. So it's really inspiring that you're offering that to the
Well,
community.
remember we talked about mischievous before? So my first shots at entrepreneurship came in elementary school. We had my friends and I had figured out that the vice president of the student body is in charge of the student store, and it was really the only way to make money on campus, unless you were playing cards or something. So we voted for my friend Scott to be vice. We did a whole campaign, got him elected as vice president, and then we started stocking the school store with our own merchandise. So we had 2 sets of books basically. We had, the pencils and and then we had all the stuff that we were selling. And that was sort of the first shot at entrepreneurship, and it worked out pretty well.
I love that. Another really inspiring and mischievous story, which I think that all entrepreneurs are a little mischievous
I
because we
think
think
so.
outside of
Yeah.
the box. Yeah.
Good.
Great.
Oh, good. Okay.
So this is such a great interview. So you identified as a heart-centered leader when you filled
Yes.
out the intake form. So from your perspective, what does heart-centered leadership mean to you?
Well, let's see. Um, The first, again, I did mention briefly that I really felt that, we have a real void in leadership in this country right now. Part of, being a leader is, number one, you have to have empathy. And we have leaders that have absolutely none at all. It's ruthless. So you have to be a good listener. And I don't mean just listen, I mean really listen. Listen with your whole body. You're never going to really know that person, know their ideas, know their business, depending on, what you're working on, without really giving them a chance to tell you. You can only learn so much in a 30-second elevator speech. So what you do is you hone that elevator speech, and then once you've honed it, you get rid of it because it tells it's basically cookie cutter, and it really tells you nothing about who that person is. You have to tell the truth. You can't sugarcoat stuff. I've actually had people over the years come into the chamber and they want to join, and after meeting with them, Barbara, who used to work here, Barbara and I would always sit down with any new member. We didn't even have an option back then to join online. And we'd have that discussion. We'd have a sit down with them. And if we didn't feel that the chamber could help them, we'd be honest with them. We'd be honest with what they should expect, and hopefully we can live up to that. But there may not be a match there. So you have to be honest with people. There's you have to be open to anything. And boy, if there's ever been a time to be open for change, now is it. And if, I'll give you an example of, one that I watched, and that was, as I got into this job, this art and wine thing grew quite a bit. And I started to get to know some of the other CEOs of other chambers. And I had met with the CEO of the Fremont Chamber. And Fremont claims to have the largest art and wine festival west of the Mississippi or something like that. We get 100,000, they were supposed to get like 300,000. Well, what happened was basically the demographics were changing quite a bit in that part of the Bay Area. And the artists would come and they weren't selling anything. And so, because the people that were coming, many of them were coming from the Middle East, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and there was no connection between what the artists were selling and what they were looking for. And so a number of the artists over a period of about 2 or 3 years figured it out, and they came back and they started providing for that event things that they felt might be of interest to the people that were coming to the event. And it really brought that event back up again. I thought that was pretty interesting. You have to be able to be flexible and change. And even in businesses that are basically controlled or uncontrolled chaos, there's one thing positive you can say about it. They're flexible. They're used to change because they have to do it all the time.
Yeah, well, and not just flexible to change, but intentional about that shift, because like what you just mentioned in that Fremont example
Yeah.
is that the artists or the business owners had to pivot to make sure they were serving the
Yes.
community and the
Yes.
customers
Yeah.
for that event, which might not be their typical ideal client. So they had to pivot
That's right.
for that event.
And you don't and again that's for one city. These artists, they travel week to week to week to all these different events. So talk about flexible.
Well, and I mean, from an artistic perspective, that's kind of neat because it allows them this
Yeah,
opportunity to
that's true.
explore different types of artwork. And I feel like this applies as a metaphor to entrepreneurs. It allows you to experiment and beta test new products, new services, new ideas for different communities based on researching who's going to be there and what those clients need. So
Yeah,
Really great metaphor for that.
yeah, and now, with Google, I mean, if you're going to be meeting somebody that's going to be important to your business, and you haven't looked online at LinkedIn or Googled them and found out a little bit about them, shame on you. That would be really foolish. Why do you have to walk? You don't have to walk into it blind anymore like we used to.
Well, and I actually just heard about this new tool this week called Crystal Knows,
Okay.
Knows. And you can use it to do a disc personality profile analysis on somebody's LinkedIn profile. So you can, and it's 85% accurate. So you can actually tell their personality type. So you even have more tools for that conversation and how to communicate with them. So that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
there's something a little scary and Big Brother about that too, isn't there?
It's scary and Big Brother, but just another tool to get to know your audience and go above and beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at what age did you start believing in yourself?
Probably at a pretty early age. That's a sort of a funny question. So, when you're growing up, you're in the sixth grade, and all of a sudden, girls don't have cooties anymore, and so the boys start paying attention to the girls, but we're all afraid. Girls grow up much faster than boys do, and I learned, and I certainly wasn't the most popular guy in class, but I figured something out, and it goes back to one of those keys as what did you say, a heart-centered leader. I practice the art of listening, and as I practice the art of listening with the girls at my school, all of a sudden they all became like my best friends, and it gave me permission to be a little bit more self-assured. I didn't have that fear of girls anymore. And so that's probably when I figured that out, probably about when I was 13, 14 years old.
Well, and it's really interesting that you share that that's what gave you the assuredness was listening. And I think this applies to dating, but also it applies to dating your potential customers to some degree. So
Mhm.
really listening allows you to beta test and really redefine and go deep on your niche as a business owner. It allows you, when you need to pivot in the market, to understand the new fears and needs of your customers. And like you said, it gives you that confidence so that you know you're providing something of value.
And you also discover the common ground that you have too, which is important.
Yes. Well, and that connection, that rapport, that trust, that likability is so important in business and in building any kind of relationship. Yeah. So, how do you show belief in others as a leader? So, on your team, in previous work, how do you show that belief?
Well, you- I have a theory, and it goes, if you can't learn, teach. Teaching is the best way to learn something. And if you can't teach, go into management. And if you can't manage, just become a consultant. That usually works out pretty well. No, I think I've lost track of the question, but
How do
that's
you show belief in others as leaders?
uh, first of all, it's basically finding that place, that common ground where you're going to have your best shot at building a relationship of trust and understanding. And I think once you've done that, you have to sort of let them go and do their own thing. I mean, certainly you have to have a roadmap of where you're going as a team or a business or a community, but you have to if they're going to participate and contribute, you have to let them do it their way, and basically just recognize when good things are happening, and don't. It's like before before they died, I should have told them I loved them one more time. Yeah, you're right. You should have. Tell them now. Tell if you've got employees that are doing well, tell them now. Tell them that they're doing a great job, or tell them what kind of contribution they made. Don't it shouldn't be just about work. There's got to be some kind of gratification. We all need a little bit of it.
Yeah, well, and I think my experience working with Jay has been as a chamber member. When I realized how amazing Jay and Barbara are, I remember signing up and saying, "Hey, can I have lunch with you, or can we have a meeting? I'd like to share what's going on in my business and get your feedback." And you guys are amazing at listening and giving new ideas, critiquing or fine tuning things that we are doing in our business. But ultimately, you guys are rock stars at showing belief in your
Well, I
members.
all I can say is that Barbara had so many ideas for her members that she would just wear them down, and they go, "Okay, enough. I've got like enough for the next year."
I know I miss Barbara because I
Yeah,
remember she would just call me throughout the week and she'd say, "Holly, I have this new idea for you." Or, "Holly, here's 6 new people you have to connect with this week."
yeah,
But that's the beauty
yeah.
of your team, is that
Well,
they
and that's
are
what we should.
this.
That's what we ultimately we should be doing too. It's
Yeah. Well, and ultimately, I feel like for having that success, it does require that big community of other business owners and injecting new ideas and new perspectives so that you're constantly growing in your business.
yeah.
Yeah. So, is there a story that you can share that shows how you lead from the heart?
Boy. Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, we just finished 21 days of being kind through the Born This Way Foundation, Lady Gaga's work, and Maya Smith, who her executive director, who lives here in Lafayette, and the whole city embraced this for the third year. This 21 days of being kind, and we were on a conference call, sort of getting ready to sort of set up what was going to happen during these 21 days, first 21 days of September. And we decided on a sort of a community, there'd be one community project. And after basically discussing a couple of ideas, we decided, hey, right now, this might be a good idea. Let's work with the food bank. So I called up the food bank. I told them what we wanted to do. They said, yeah, we can do that. I said, okay, I need 40 containers. And he goes, okay. I go, you got that many? He goes, oh yeah, yeah, we got that many. So he said, but you'll have to come down and get them. So I called one of our businesses here in town, Gagnon's, who's a party rental place. They're not doing a lot of trucking of equipment around these days. They jumped to help us with that. It was fantastic. We got the barrels here. We distributed them all, and we got the word yesterday that we collected over 2,000 pounds of food for the food bank during the last 2 weeks of this 21 days of kindness. So, yeah, I thought, hey, I can handle this part of that. So that was from the heart. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that because with COVID and
Yeah.
isolation,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I've noticed in communities and outside walking that for a while there was starting to become kind of this animosity towards people and um, just frustration, right? And so I like that you guys intentionally put something to remind the community that it's really about coming together in safe ways and kindness and spreading that good stuff
And it's
and then
really easy
promoting it.
too. It's really easy.
It
And we
is.
and we learned something from it too. Um, Maya, who lives on the north side of town, said, "Hey, could I have one of those at my house? I'll talk to my neighbors." Well, they had to take theirs down to the food bank because they'd already filled it up. So they brought it back, and I picked it up yesterday, and I realized, boy, I wonder if the food bank has ever thought about doing neighborhood food drives like that, because now you really know everybody and they only have to go to their kitchen to your driveway. This may be a new way of collecting food, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you could have neighborhood contests to
Yeah.
see which neighborhoods collect the most food. That would be
Mhm.
kind of fun. And it would be a good way to bring neighborhoods back together as well.
Our next contest is going on right now, so we've had to eliminate basically all of our events for the year, but we are doing our reservoir run. And the Reservoir Run is to raise money for our local schools. And so the schools are all competing on the number of people that they get registered and signed up. And they're doing a phenomenal job. The difference this year is you're running. We're all together, but we're running separately. So they have 2 weeks to do the run instead of 2 hours. So we'll see how that goes. But so far, so good. And
I
people
love
get
that.
and it gives people a chance to feel good about donating to the schools.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Not stopping the event, but figuring out a
Yeah.
different way to still make it happen and bring people together in a safe way. That's awesome. All right, we're going to move into our lightning round of questions. Are you
All right,
ready?
I'll take geography for 400.
That's not in the queue.
Okay.
All right, what is your favorite book?
Ha ha ha. My favorite book is probably A Separate Reality, written by Carlos Castaneda. But my favorite writer, Kurt Vonnegut, absolutely, along with Arthur C. Clarke.
Love that. And what networking or community group do you love most?
Lafayette Chamber, of course.
I know if you didn't say that, I would be like, do you have a temperature? It is an awesome community. So for people that are in the area, highly recommend checking out the Lafayette Chamber.
Yeah.
It's
And we
amazing.
serve all of La Miranda and some of the cities around us too. A third of our businesses that are members are not in Lafayette physically. So
I know I'm relocating to the East Coast and I'm going to stay a member.
there you
So
go.
I didn't know that was an option. I'm like, yes, that's so exciting. What's the best one piece of advice that you would share with others today?
I think when I filled out the form that we would at least start this conversation with was I quoted I quoted some lyrics of Robert Hunter, who wrote most of the lyrics for the Grateful Dead. And in a song, Scarlet Begonias, there is a line that says, "Once in a while, you get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right." Don't miss the stuff that's right in front of you. Sometimes you'll be surprised at where you find that inspiration or that little bit of knowledge or the experience. Take it all in. It's all worth it.
That is so true. And on that, I just recently read something where it said when you're asking for something, you don't always get the answer in exactly the way you would expect. So you still have to remain open to seeing the wisdom in those answers
When
in
the
a new way.
student when the student is ready, the teacher shall appear.
Exactly. Beautiful. If you could share one message with the world, what would that be?
Vote. Please,
Vote.
please vote over the next couple of weeks. We are in a very dark place. It's time to take back our democracy. This enough of this BS. It's
Yeah. And
yeah,
since this is airing after that, anytime you have the opportunity to vote, vote with your dollars, vote in any way that you
there you go.
can.
There you
Listen to
go.
that sage advice for
Yeah,
sure.
you say vote with your dollars. We've always tried to have a really strong shop local program in town, educating and sharing with the community just how important it is to spend your dollars here and what your sales tax dollars buy. And like I said before, our last quarter we were down 25% in sales tax, and that's a tremendous amount of money. The city looks to lose over $1 million in sales tax this year. So you can't pay for the police or fix the roads or basically keep the level of expectation you have of what your local government can do unless you feed it a little bit. So this is going to be really important. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Make sure you're supporting your local businesses so
Yeah.
that your city can thrive. And what is the legacy that you wish to leave behind?
Uh, the legacy is that we did it. That whatever we did it with the spirit of love, and that we laughed a lot. Yeah, because
That's
for
beautiful.
me, for me, if I'm not laughing, I have to question, is it worth it? So humor has gotten me through a lot in life. I think that's a real important piece. That sometimes we get, we lose, we lose the ability to enjoy the moment. At some point we grow up. I haven't gotten there yet, but I know a lot of people that have. I'm still the same kid I used to be, but some people grow up and they sort of lose that, I don't know, that magic, and we should hold on to it as long as we can.
I love that. So Jay is all about love, laughter, and that magical inner child. That's beautiful. Great. So Jay is offering a free 15-minute consultation for anybody that's looking for ideas or new perspective in their business. And you can just email him at jay@lafayettechamber.org to set up that free 15-minute consultation. That will be in the show notes as well, in case you didn't catch that. Also, if you want to learn more about Jay and the Chamber, I will have the Instagram link, their Facebook page, as well as the Lafayette Chamber's website. So you can learn more about him and the Lafayette Chamber of Commerce.
Thanks, Holly.
Anything else you'd like to add, Jay?
I better not.
That mischievous side of you.
I like my job. I'd like to keep it.
And you will. Well, thank you so much, Jay. This was such a pleasure. And to our listeners, I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Inspiration Contagion.
Thanks for the great work.
Thank you. Thank you for joining the show today. I hope you were inspired. More importantly, I hope you take action. What is one thing you can do in this moment that will inspire someone? Without action, nothing changes. Be the change you wish to see in the world. If this show truly inspired you, we ask that you share it through your network. Help us spread the light and inspiration in the world. I look forward to seeing you here next week.